Darkest greetings, and welcome to another episode of Madame Gray's Ghostly Corner. With me, your hostess, Madame Gray. Tonight's episode, I'm going to be reading you a story entitled The Demon of the Moor. And it comes from my collection, The Caretaker's Cottage Library. Part ghost story, part paranormal, part urban legend. I hope you'll enjoy it. One of the many heirlooms I have left over from the grand old days of the estate is my great-grandmother's journal. Her name was Lady Anne Decay, and I've shared some of her previous pennings. She was quite the poet, author, entertainer, and creative soul, and I am so fortunate to have so much of her to share with you. It almost didn't turn out that way. When she died, in a fit of rage, one of her children destroyed the many trunks of music that she had been left. Pages and pages of handwritten sheet music with accompanying lyrics. That woman was my grandmother's sister, Harlan. She thought she deserved more. My grandmother told me that Lady Anne's music was beautiful, and they used to spend hours around the piano, listening to her play and singing the songs she'd written. Sometimes, when I walk the estate late at night, I can hear the faint refrains of tragically beautiful piano music, and I somehow feel closer to that grand old lady. Luckily, the journal, filled with Anne's hauntingly chilling but darkly romantic prose, went to my grandmother. Unlike her greedy sister, my grandmother held that journal above all she ever owned, and knowing that I possessed the same sentimentality and appreciation, left it to me. Her diary is one of my most treasured possessions. I've been reading an entry from 1915. It appears that, at one time, the estate was smaller than it is now, and Lady Anne and Lord Blackledge, my great-grandfather, had neighbors. This is from October 29th, just in time for All Hallows' Eve. My grandmother always loved a good ghost story. Now I know where she got it from. It appears that Lady Anne was quite the story collector herself, in addition to writing them. Here is the entry, word for word. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have. From the Diary of Lady Anne Decay, October 29th, 1915. My neighbor, Lena, whom I'm quite fond of, is Irish. She's very old, though she will never say just how old. Widowed with no children, and treats Blackie and I as her own. She says she's leaving us everything, including her house and land. An impressive lot indeed when she passes. Whether or not she does is of no concern to me, and certainly not to Blackie. We both simply love her for her light, her wisdom, and her kindness. She's absolutely fascinating and tells the most interesting tales. This one such tale, she says, was passed down by her mother, who heard it from her mother. She relayed it to me exactly as it was passed down to her, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Being a poet myself, this really struck me, and I committed it to memory. I added the introduction and the footnote for my own special touch. May she always live on in this entry. I chatted over the fence today with Lena, who lives next door. She told me an interesting story about a man who lived on the moor. The man was a drunkard, wretched and mean. He lied and stole and cheated in between. No one would challenge him and his fists of stone, for one hit could shatter the strongest bone. He blasphemed his creator, and he liked it that way. But all of that changed on one cloudy, cold day. While on his way home, the sun dipped low. Angry at lost time, he had further to go. To cut across the bog was the quickest way. He'd never heeded what others had to say. He'd heard the tales about what lived in the night, a demon of old that held the bog tight. The marsh will swallow any caught after dark, like water on fire, drowning every last spark. The old man scoffed, liquid courage in his veins. Little did he know he'd never be seen again. The last anyone saw in the pale waning light, he set off across the moor and disappeared out of sight. In the dark, screams were heard, distant and shrill. The demon had claimed yet another kill. And that was the end of old Dugan McShay. His awful ways ended on that cold winter's day. When the story was over, I laughed. Lena, did it really happen that way? Lena smiled and winked. My granny remembered that night till her final dying day. Though the phone video wasn't exactly cooperative this time, I hope you enjoyed the story. Maybe old Dugan McShay was reaching out from the beyond, not liking his secrets being passed down. Or maybe it was the demon itself, reminding us to behave, to mind our P's and Q's, and never forget the old ways. This is Madame Gray signing off. I'll see you next time.